I want to congratulate my fellow graduates first. Kudos to you. There are no accidental MFAs, so. I want to thank first my wife, whose name is Lesley, by the way, so if you wonder why I chose this program. Imagine if her name had been Bennington or Goddard. Thank you, Lesley, for your support and encouragement. I couldn't have done it without you. She's here tonight filming this, by the way, so watch for it on YouTube soon. And I want to thank my sons, Zach and Jesse, who were there for me, even when I wasn't always there for them. And my daughter-in-law, Lori, who just delivered my first grandchild, Ava. Thank you, Lori, just last week. Thanks to Stephen Kramer for the phone call. Thanks to all IS instructors, Barbara Begg, Jody Doff, and Hunter Liguori, who gave me an opportunity and taught me to think like an editor. Thanks to all the instructors that were never my mentors, but taught great seminars. Janet, Jana, Tyler Birdwood, Craig Garland, for keeping the program on track. But most of all, thanks to my mentors. From the fabulous Lori Foos, I learned that the last thing a writer wants is to sound writerly, and that readers are not impressed by lofty diction. Why say, she said, and I quote, "A titanium knob that when turned echoed the sounds embedded in her consciousness of the entirety of her lived experience," when you can simply say a doorknob. So thank you, Lord, for reminding me to keep it simple. From Rachel Kadish, you'll learn that it's not as important what your characters say and do as it is what they're thinking and feeling when they say and do it, and we must see them say and do it, that we must have beats and choreography. Thank you, Rachel. And thanks to Tony E. Pryle, my mentor twice, and my thesis advisor, who encouraged me to do the hard work of a writer, to write truly, and to care how the reader feels at the end of my stories, who helped me to organize the clutter of my stories into a cohesive narrative. Tony, I can't thank you enough. And to A.J. Vidal, my second reader, for a very thorough reading. And I feel like I've gotten a fifth semester at no extra charge. So, and thank you all. And I'm going to read from my manuscript, which is called The Gold Medal and Other Penitentiary Tales. These two short vignettes were not included in the thesis, but have been written since. And the first is called Cabrini Green Gangstas, with no R on gangstas. Dean Davis tells Reggie Brown about the view from the top of Mount Tamalpais when the sun goes down, how it glows like a red-hot nickel when it slides beneath the sea, how cargo ships along the city blocks and tall as 10-story buildings pass beneath the Golden Gate Bridge, carrying who knows what from the far-flung corners of the world, how when the fog rolls in, the screech of the seagulls and the cottony blast of the fog horns reminds him of the Zen flute playing of Tony Scott. Reggie Brown tells Dean Davis about the view from the window of the 10th floor apartment in the housing project Cabrini Green on the near north side of Chicago, where he was born and lived till he was arrested for murder at the age of 16. About the view of the mobs of black youth, bored, restless, angry, and don't know no better, fighting in the street, kicking each other when they're down, of little brown girls in pigtails, his little sister Maddie among them, skipping rope on sidewalks littered with glass chips that sparkled in the sun. Even from way up on floor number 10, he could see the sparkle. Of his big brother Deontay cooking up pork steaks for sale out of an old barrel cut sideways and hooked up for grilling. About the cops in their checkered flat hats and black leather caps like Nazis, breaking the bones in the heads of his partners with their big old nightsticks. How when the wail of their sirens mixes with the sounds of the shooting and the shouting, it reminds him of Stevie Wonder's Living for the City. Dean Davis shows Reggie Brown a photograph he'd taken of his older brother Brody, a poetry professor at San Francisco State, standing with the poet Lawrence Ferlinghetti on the sidewalk outside City Lights Books in North Beach, San Francisco. Reggie Brown shows Dean Davis a photograph of himself and two of his partners posing on a balcony of Cabrini Green taken by his brother Deontay on the day they named themselves the Cabrini Green Gangstas. That's me on the left, Reggie Brown says, the shortest of the shorties. I was 14. 14-year-old Reggie in blue jeans, striped tennis shoes, a pullover shirt with a stripe across the chest and a baseball cap on backwards, stands with his feet apart and his arms folded, staring at the camera, trying to look not so short and not so young. Next to me is Randall, Reggie Brown says. He was 15 then. I was in love with his sister. 15-year-old Randall is a head taller than Reggie, with long legs and black denim trousers, high-top tennis shoes, and a hooded sweatshirt. His arms too are folded, and on his face a mix of defiance and uncertainty. That's Terrence on the right, Reggie Brown says. He was 17. He was our chief. 17-year-old Terrence is tall and slim in faded blue jeans and tennis shoes and a zippered nylon windbreaker with the Chicago Bulls logo on the front. His expression is one of supreme indifference. Reggie Brown tells Dean Davis how he picked their gang name. He liked to watch superhero television shows and read superhero comic books. He liked Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers, how they lived in a future impossibly far away. He liked the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. He liked Captain America and the Teen Titans and Wonder Woman. And he liked the Green Hornet. He told his partners, "Listen up, yo, we're from Cabrini Green. Let's be the Cabrini Green Hornets." Randall hooted and rolled his eyes. Then Terrence said, "Nigger, you better come up off that crackrass comic book bullshit. We straight up gangsters, not some old white folk funny page superheroes." And Reggie said, all right. Well, how about just the Cabrini Green Gangsters?" And Terrence said, "Now you're making sense, young blood." And Randall said, "I like it too." Reggie Brown tells Dean Davis how 2 years later, the Cabrini Green Gangsters delivered a kilo of cocaine to a white man they didn't know, an undercover narcotics agent, and when two of the agent's partners came busting through the door with their pistols drawn, Reggie and his partners pulled theirs too. How when Reggie opened his eyes in the hospital under guard 4 days later, he was the only one from the shootout left alive, and how at the age of 16, he was sentenced to 3 consecutive 100-year terms for the murder of 3 of Chicago's finest. When Reggie tells Dean Davis his out date is the year 2274, Davis says, "Damn, Reggie, that's a long fucking time." And Reggie Brown, staring off into a future impossibly far away, says it's a straight-up Buck Rogers out date for damn sure, Brother Davis. And I'm going to read another real short one, if I have time. It's called Chicken Shack. Dean Davis promises himself that if he ever tells the story of Old Man Miller, he will not mention having heard late at night through the common wall of their adjacent cells the old black man singing in a sweet and sorrowful baritone, "No one knows the trouble I've seen, no one knows but Jesus." It is too improbable a cliche, and he will keep it to himself. Old Man Miller has a tumor in his bowels the size of a baseball. It festers in fumes, and when he walks up the corridor, mumbling and cursing to himself, his flatulence is audible and seems to quicken his pace like a booster rocket firing, and prompts such complaints as, "Pops, you a foul dude, you a fart-ass motherfucker." But the complaints are not intended to be cruel. It is understood that the old man will die behind these walls, no doubt sooner than later. He's 20 years into an 80-year sentence for the shooting death of 2 teenage boys who, one fine day, robbed his chicken shack on Chicago's south side. They ran into his joint, pulled their pistols, took his money, and ran. And he ran after them, firing his own pistol till they lay dead in the street. Old Man Miller don't know why he got to be locked up. Those punk-ass little gangster motherfuckers, he says, they pulled their cop guns first. They got what they had coming. Little devils think they're going to rob my chicken shack. He's further delusional in that he believes that someday, somehow, he'll be back on the street and will have himself another chicken shack. He tells Dean Davis he's too old to start from ain't got nothing, so he better get himself a ready-made chicken shack, like that one with the old white colonel. "You mean Colonel Sanders," Davis said? "I mean that old white motherfucker with the goatee and the glasses." That's Kentucky Fried Chicken, Davis says. "Well, so how much for a Kentucky Fried Chicken, Davis?" "I don't know," Davis says. It's a franchise. You never really own one. You pay a fee, then you pay so much per month, and there'd be startup costs and operating costs. You mean you got to buy it, then you got to rent it too, and you never even own the motherfucker?" "Something like that." "Well, how much for all that fee and startup cost bullshit?" "I don't know," Davis says. I guess $250,000. Old Man Miller seems to visibly shrink, pressed down by the weight of impossible numbers. Then he straightens and says, "I ain't paying no goddamn $250,000 for no goddamn chicken shack. Get my own motherfucking chicken shack." He walks quickly up the corridor, muttering and cursing and venting noxious fumes.